Okay, thanks very much. Hi everyone, great to be with you. Great to be at the CDO Summit here in Hong Kong, the 4th annual CDO Summit. My name is Anson Bailey and I'm joined by my good friend, Mr. Henry Louie. Hey Henry, how you doing?
Good, thanks. Anson, how are you?
Very good. Today, what we wanted to do is just to share some really interesting insights with all of you about the Wilson Group, because I think the Wilson Group, we perhaps know about the Wilson Group, traditional infrastructure parking company. But one of the interesting things that we've seen recently
So right now we're just waiting for
the Wilson Group really now developing some really cool apps. And what we're going to do right now, I'm going to hand over to Henry. Henry's just going to take us through the next 10 minutes about this very cool will and what is will, and then we'll have a chat. Henry, over to you, buddy.
Thanks, Anson. For many people here, you probably only know us as Wilson Parking. So just to give you a quick background of what we do in Hong Kong. So we're a subsidiary of Sun Hung Kai Properties. So as Anson mentioned, we're a traditional company. You will know us by our brand Wilson Parking, the biggest operator in Hong Kong. But some of you may not park at Wilson Parking, but then you probably park at Imperial Parking. In Hong Kong, half of our workforce, about 1,800 people, run our tollways division. And in Hong Kong, we run about 10 tunnels. We've got about 38 kilometers of highways, and Hong Kong's iconic bridges like the Chiang Mai Bridge and the Stonecutters Bridge we operate. In addition, our equipment business provides a lot of the car park technology, but it also provides a lot of Hong Kong speed cameras and red light cameras. In addition, we've got 2 joint ventures, Autotoll Limited, which provides Hong Kong's ETC solutions at the tunnels, but also provides a lot of the city's smart city and smart mobility solutions. And in addition, if you don't park with us, you don't drive through one of our facilities, and you may not even drive, you can learn how to drive at Hong Kong School of Motoring, which we're a shareholder in as well. So that gives you a bit of a background of what we do in Hong Kong. We have a lot of customers across the whole breadth of what we do. But over the years, we've realized that we actually lost touch with a lot of our customers, and that we didn't actually touch with them in knowing what they do or who they are essentially. So over the last couple of years, we've been looking at how to reconnect with our customers. And over that time, we were looking at a lot of applications and blogs and forums, and there's actually a lot in Hong Kong. But they're all singular items. And so we looked at it and said, what can we do to make it easier for the drivers in Hong Kong? And we came across an idea of what would happen if we had all of these applications in one app in your pocket. And that's how we started on the journey. And it started at the end of December. We brought in our technology people, and we realized that we had a lot of technology, but it was really focused on ourselves and on our clients, and not really on our customers. So in that sense, we decided to go all out, so to say. We hired a totally separate digital team, a commercial and digital team, which we set up in a separate office, separate management, their role would be to run this. And so we would separate it out from our traditional businesses, which are traditional, are very bricks and mortar in our view. So over the course of the last 18 months, we were able to develop an idea, conducted quite a lot of research. We were very focused on the customer. And so we went through about 4 different workshops with customers through qualitative, quantitative. And so over time, we came up with what we think is the world's first all-in-one engagement platform for motorists. it's still a work in motion. Most people, when they launch an app, some people wait till they get it perfect before launching, but we took the view that we wanted to go to market first, continue getting that feedback from customers so we can keep on improving it. And with how technology is evolving, mobility apps are evolving, we want to keep this always moving ahead. And that's where we're at now.
Okay, great. Excellent. Thank you very much. Let's just leave it there. I think it is fascinating, Henry, because again, I am a Hong Kong motorist. So for me, I've been crying out for this type of app for a long time. Obviously, on behalf of all the Hong Kong motorists here, if you can give us the exact mapping of all of those speed cameras, I think that would be very useful to avoid all of those chow pai, those tickets, right? But I also kind of wanted to kind of back you up here, because when I think of tech, I think of innovation, I think of the new economy, and we're here at the Chief Digital Officer Summit. I don't necessarily think about parking, but you, and I think you've been on a mission to really now transform your business into much more of a kind of a digital native business, right?
I think when we started looking at this, and when I think about it, we started in Hong Kong in 1983, and we were the first company that brought in electronic access control equipment. And then in the late 90s, we introduced Octopus.
Yeah.
And so all of that to us is some form of transformation.
Yeah.
It just happens that the technology now, you call it digital transformation. But we've always been transforming our business. But our business is essentially the same. You park your car, you find your car space, when you go get it or you get out of the car, you complain about how tight the spot is. You complain about how expensive it is, but it's still parking. Essentially, it's the same. It's a bricks and mortar, you drive in. Later on, don't know so much with autonomous and whatever, but we're just providing a better service to our customer.
Right. And I think, again, a better service to the customer. I think one of the things, you came up with this idea, and I think this has kind of been, as you said, it's been fermenting now for the last 2 years. And you've just launched the Will app. We obviously need to make sure that we'll, by the way, download, if you're a motorist in Hong Kong, you absolutely should make sure you download the app, because that's important. But I think the key message there is, why are you doing it?
I think motorists in Hong Kong, in some ways, for us, our business model is based on motorists.
Right.
We don't shy from that.
Mm-hmm.
But in some ways, we know what motorists don't like in Hong Kong. They don't like paying for things, even though they drive. And so we're trying to make it more efficient for them, give them better options. One of the features is our motoring merchants ecosystem.
Right.
Which allows them to find a repair shop, find somewhere to wash their car. A lot of the times in Hong Kong, you ask your friends or family and say, where should I go? But do you trust them in some ways, So we're trying to provide them to become smarter as a motorist.
Yeah, and I think you're right. It's also, I think the key message there is understanding the consumer. And obviously in Wilson's case, it's understanding those motorists.
Correct.
And they're your customers as well. So that's the key. The other point, I love the slide about all of that information in your pocket, right?
Yep.
All of that information here. And if I'm not mistaken, it was features like navigation maps, right? That's right.
Yeah.
We've got the navigation maps. It's also about automotive related merchants. That's important, right? The services, the rewards, the auto content, the auto insurance, the navigation, as we said. I mean, it's pretty comprehensive, and it's also about very much being focused on the customer. And I think that's a key message, right?
I think one thing on the customer is when we were going through this, one of the things that came up from the customer survey was the expenses. So customers are saying, well, we actually track our expenses.
Yeah.
And they go, we track it on a piece of paper or on an Excel spreadsheet. And we said, so we, from that, decided to build that as a feature. And that came from the customers, it didn't come from us.
Right. So again, a key message for all of us when we're doing this, it's really about following your customers.
Correct.
And following those customer journeys. I think that's a key message. The other thing I was going to say is that this is going to create a lot of data, a heck of a lot of data.
Yep.
So does that mean you're now hiring data scientists? Is that the next wave?
It's interesting. Our traditional business, people we hire, we're never digital. We're never in so-called the digital space. And so you're correct. So this team that we have, they have no knowledge of our business, transport at all. They're all from all different parts of Hong Kong digital type businesses, and people we're hiring are data scientists.
Yeah.
Because we need to understand our customers better. At the moment, the information we have is operational statistics. It's nothing about the customer.
Yeah.
It's a serial number.
Yeah, I think it's fascinating because, again, traditional businesses like Wilson, right? You are now, coming into the 21st century, you're hiring those data scientists. You've got the message that it really is about the customer and following the customers and understanding the customers. But as you said, there's also a data play. And I think that is another key message about the data play as well. And as you said, hiring of those data scientists. You and I, in the last couple of years, we've been talking a lot about smart cities. And we've also been talking about how we need to create those future smart mobility ecosystems. Are we going along the right direction, do you feel? Is Hong Kong, are we moving forward?
I think the focus on smart cities or smart mobility, especially, has been always on the infrastructure.
Yeah.
On the hard assets. And so we look at this as a smart mobility play, in the sense that we're trying to make motorists smarter and how they do things, how they drive through the city, how they consume on the motoring side. And so in our view, it is a smart mobility platform. It's making Hong Kong smarter.
Yeah. And I think that's a good point, right? Because the interesting thing is you and I have been talking about it. There's been a lot of theory, but now it does feel that it's happening. And I think with the likes of Will, this is another good example that we can demonstrate that we are now moving into that era of smart cities, smart ecosystems, smart mobility, because I think that's really important. Earlier on, you talked about merchants and, the key message here is collaboration, because it's not just about Wilson Group, is it? You have got to build this ecosystem with a lot of different partners.
So at the beginning, we were concerned, but we took the view that, in Hong Kong, there's so many different ways of finding certain merchants or whatever. So our merchant app, we've got about 300 merchants onboarded. Any type of merchant you can think of which is related to motoring, we've got some form onboarded. It could be selling some specialty part. We've got them onboarded. We've collaborated with Caltex on a fuel card, which gives them basically anytime one of the best rebates in Hong Kong. And we've teamed up with Zurich on auto insurance. And we'll continue to build that ecosystem out with different partners.
Yeah, because again, I think that's really, really important in the future, is that, we, in order to move that ecosystem, in order to move the dial, we've got to accept that we can't do it ourselves. We've got to collaborate. And again, with Wilson Group, with Will, it's been a great journey for all of us, because we've been collaborating, and KPMG, the KPMG team and the tech enablement team have been working with you. That's been very important. Equally, we've been working with our friends at Microsoft as well, because being able to offer those cloud solutions, that's really, really important. So again, it is the key. I think the key word for all of us is collaboration. We've got to make sure that we are collaborating. The other thing I was just going to mention to everybody, and I think perhaps Marcus mentioned it earlier on in his presentation, is Hong Kong now is becoming a tech and innovation hub. And at KPMG, we do a lot of research. We look around the globe, and one of the great things is that I think, Marcus, top 10 cities, when we talk about tech and innovation, 6 of those cities are actually here in Asia. And I think that's very, very key. But one of the things we've got to do is I think we've got to nurture and we've got to develop and upskill and reskill our people. Because as you said, traditionally, Wilson, your team, like a lot of teams, were not naturally digital natives. So is that something that you've been looking at as well in terms of upskilling, reskilling, as you said, hiring new data scientists, this kind of next generation?
I think one example, I guess, is our accounting team.
Yeah.
One of the challenges when we brought in the system, or Will, was how do we account for it? It's not a traditional, income in, spend some expenses, and it's a pretty simple P&L format because there's a point system involved. So it's actually, we need to prove an audit trail. And so the accounts team and talking to our team, there's an upskilling in knowledge of a different type of platform or a different type of business. So every part of our business are getting upskilled in certain ways.
I think the other interesting thing for all of us is focusing on the consumer, because we now see changing consumer behaviors, especially with the likes of COVID-19 and the fact that we're now living in a more digital age. Consumers are becoming a lot more tech savvy. They're becoming a lot more digitally minded. So I think it's really important that we do have these apps. But one thing that I'm interested in is you should be able to know, what am I driving? I'm just brainstorming here. You should have hopefully in the future with Will, you'll get a very comprehensive view of the consumer, right? You'll be able to know where I'm parking, what I'm driving, what I'm spending on, because I'm linked to your merchants. I mean, there's lots of opportunities to understand the consumer.
It's actually one of the things that we saw in this was how do you get value back to the consumer? Because we took the view, and we've had this discussion many times, is who does the data belong to?
Yeah.
And so our view was that how do you utilize that data for the benefit of the owner? And the owner to us is the consumer, is the motorist.
Yeah.
So if we can get better understanding of our members, of our motorists, we can get better value through our collaboration, for example, with F&B outlets. So we know which motorists or our members who may prefer going to the Landmark for breakfast, or who would prefer to go to McDonald's for breakfast. And so you can focus on delivering a better benefit for each of that member. And I think that's important to us, is that we want to utilize that data, not for our benefit only, but also to get more value back to our customers.
Absolutely. We're pretty much out of time, but I think a key message there about the consumers is, and I think you and I have spoken about this before, is that if you give something to the consumers, if you provide, if you're able to offer them that value added service, they're quite happy to also share that data with you, right?
That's our view, and a lot of the feedback through our surveys also indicated that.
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, hopefully you have enjoyed the session. I was going to say, if we just remind everybody, Will, go and download it right now. I am part of Henry's sales business development team. If you do drive in Hong Kong, this is invaluable, but it's about the ecosystem. It's also about Hong Kong becoming a more smarter digital city in the future. And I think that's very, very important. So check out Will. There's lots of great, in fact, there's free car parking as well.
You get free parking out of it.
So there's lots of different advantages there. But as I said, what I'm really impressed about is even the traditional companies, even those traditional companies today, just like Wilson Group, realize that they've got to move the dial, right? They've got to change. They've got to move the dial. They've got to become more of a digital native type business. So on that note, thank you all very, very much for joining us. Really appreciate everyone being here at the CDO Hong Kong Summit. Thanks, Henry, for your sharing.
Thank you.
And we'll look forward to the next few panels. And I know there's some amazing insights and panels coming up, okay? So thanks again. Have a great afternoon.